I know, don't even know there's an edge. Okay? Did that sink in? They live back there where it's safe. And someone who's been an entrepreneur since I started my first business at 21. And so a lot have failed. Some are still dragging around after that many years. But so the concept of, as an entrepreneur, I want to live up here near the edge and not on the edge. Okay? So other than that, we're going to talk about forms of business ownership. And, okay, how you're going to set up your business. What form is your business going to take? Legal entities, okay? We've got, it depends on your tax situation. What are your considerations that you have to deal with? And no one in here is going to have the same set of taxes. Remember when Al or Rick were talking about the individual things that apply to you? We couldn't go, oh, everybody needs to do an LLC, everybody needs to do a C Corp, everybody needs, no. It's what are your individual situations with how your real estate things are hooked together versus your personal life and the amount of liability that you have, or do you want to protect yourself? Who knows, or the amount of investors. So we're going to talk about those a little bit here. Tax considerations, what's your liability exposure? There. And personal responsibility for the company's actions. You know, what I found out was I have a small company called Diabolical Puzzles. I make high-end laser cut jigsaw puzzles. And so one of my puzzles, they're cut out of stainless steel, and one of the puzzles weighs 10 pounds. Okay? So, and they're quite expensive. But the point was, is I go to an attorney and I go, here's my product. You know, I'm just trying to do a consult. And he goes, you need liability. You need umbrella liability coverage. Why? In case somebody drops one of these puzzles on their toe, they're going to sue me. And I thought, I need to protect myself against every slippery-handed moron in the world who's going to buy my product. Okay? Apparently. Okay? Apparently. And that's a sad commentary for a little fish to have to go buy that amount of liability coverage and all this kind of stuff. So we're looking at assuming personal responsibility. How are you going to raise initial funds? These are the questions you're asking here on looking at my form of business, how I'm going to start from the starting gate. And how much control are you willing to sacrifice in exchange for this help? I think Al or Rick were talking about, do you want to work alone? Or are you willing to take on investors? Or some level of debt? Or an advisory board? Or a board of directors? Entrepreneurs, we don't have it all. But as we start out our business, we have to be the be-all, end-all. I know everything in the world about business. But as soon as you get up to that next level, for me, I'm not necessarily going to have to marry an accountant. I'm at least going to have to hire one, okay? Because as they say out on the coast, homie don't do accounting, okay? So, and those people, there's a zillion of them out there, but only a few good ones. Right, Bobby Sue? Yes, okay. So, you need help from others. And how big do you think you want to grow? Do you want to start your business so small as a sole proprietor? And eventually, what my dream is, you know, here the standard route of, I start with, as a sole proprietor, I'm feeding the beast from my pocket, aren't I? What's the next level of funding level? Friends and family, right? Don't you go hit up your friends and family next for cash? Then potentially, what's the standard thing from every textbook? What's the next way to go? You get an angel. Angel investor. That's a human being. Then maybe you get a couple rounds of angel investings. And what's the next notch you go above there? Venture capital, which is a corporation, a company that invests in business. Okay, and then what's the next level? Your IPO. So that's what everybody thinks of. I'm going to start out as I'm going to start out in my bedroom and garage. And my goal is to eventually have a Facebook, you know, IPOing at $1 zillion or something crazy like that, you know, when they're trying to quantify what they do. So how much do you think you're going to grow? Are you willing to pass on the company? What happens when we're all going to see the big accountant in the sky at some point, aren't we? Okay? I know St. Peter's an accountant, and that's just plain going to piss me off when I get up there. They're not going to be a marketing dude. It's going to be an accountant with his ledger and all this kind of stuff. So, Rick, were you a good boy? No, no. You know, you go live with Scott now, okay? Because you boys have been bad, all right? So, how do you pass on your business? And this is an important criteria when we're setting it up. Do you want just your, when you kick off, do you want your business just to go plop? Or is there some way that you could pass the business off to your chitlins or to somebody else, or I don't know, whatever your needs are. And the cost, benefits and costs of particular forms, each one of them has different costs, different liabilities, and different problems. Here's a chart on forms of ownership, percentage of ownership of all the businesses in the country. That chart ain't in your book, okay? So you can't, there's no like reading and like cheating like you did with Al with the 8-page paper deal. You know, there's no cheating here. Notice the difference here, that the sole proprietor, that is how many businesses actually have, of all the businesses, are sole proprietors. LLCs, S Corps, C Corps, and partnerships here. You know, when we're looking at job creation in this country, you hear all the time the politicians going, oh, jobs are created by large companies, right? No. The jobs that we're trying to create right now are created by small business, and the definition of small business is under 100 employees and under, what, 100 million bucks, okay? And when you hear a certain political party saying, oh, we want 1,000-person companies and a billion-dollar companies to be termed small business. The jobs are being created from this room. They're created at small business because we're looking at here of how many are sole proprietorships. Many of these people should actually consider getting another form of business, okay, because they don't quite understand the liability situations and the flexibility of other forms. But let's look at the next chart. Percent of sales. Look at C Corps over here, having all the sales. And here are sole proprietors right here on amount of sales. So there are more sole proprietorships out there, but the big corporations, the General Electrics, the, you know, we could name every Tyco's, the big conglomerates making billions and zillions, are these companies here with sales of profits. And then we have percentage of profits. So we've got the zillion-dollar companies here, partnerships kicking in here, sole proprietors are making a little better taste here, LLCs and S Corps. So it's an interesting set of charts here. Let me just flash through them once. Sole proprietor, quantity, sales, and profits. A couple of interesting charts in there. So we're going to go through quickly some of the different forms of business. We've got the sole proprietor. I'll give you a second to read that if you want. It's
I really meant it, didn't you? 1 second.
I wish I could do that again on purpose. That was pretty sweet. Take a second, click. The sole proprietorship is the most popular type of ownership, defined as a business owned and managed by one individual. How many sole proprietorships are in here? Sole proprietors are in here. It's just you and your checkbook, right? You're running the business pretty much through your checkbook, okay, personal checkbook, all right? The sole proprietor has its implications regarding the claims of the business creditors and owners and personal assets. What does that mean? That if somebody, a little puzzle company, which is an LLC, okay, strictly to keep some pinhead from dropping a puzzle on his toe or deciding to eat one of these pieces at some point to do something crazy and then blame me for, you know, esophageal cancer. I don't think that. So the point is, so I have insurance, I've LLC'd, they ain't going to get my car, they ain't going to get my bank account. So that's the problem with some of the sole proprietorships, is that all of the liability flows right through to you. You've all heard of that term, the corporate veil? Anybody not heard the corporate veil? We'll talk about that. It's when we get into the corporations, so the liability piece, you hang this piece of cloth, it's like the curtain behind the wizard, Never look behind the curtain, okay? There's just some dude playing the organ back there, okay? But the point is that there's this corporate veil that we're going to find out if your company is a false company and you're strictly hiding behind the corporate veil for liability purposes, and then you're out doing heinous things to people going, ha 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 ha, you can't get me. Well, the courts will do what? Pierce the corporate veil, okay? And they'll just stab through it and go, ha, we've got you now, and you can't hide there anymore. So the sole proprietorships, as soon as you get to a point, get out of that sole proprietorship thing, okay? And get on with some level of protection. The advantages, simple to create. You get a business license. In Alaska, it's pretty simple, isn't it? You go on the state Secretary of State's website, and you get what? $100 business license, don't you? The what?
It's only 50.
Is it 50 now? 50 bucks? The LLC's $250. Did you? Okay. So try to get a checking account or a bank account with your business. What do you need to have in this state? You need to have a business license. Even the credit union won't allow you to open a business account with the business name on it, even with your name on it. It's your name with the DBA. You got to have that $50 license. Secretary of State, it's really easy. And part of the deal is that about once a year you'll get that little card from the mayor saying, send in some money to me. I don't know, that card kind of disappears off my desk, and I never have any correspondence with Sullivan. So simple to create, get your business license, but then it's in your name, and you start to look a little professional, don't you? There's nothing worse than going, oh, here, I'd like to buy some supplies for my business, and you give them a personal check rather than a check that has your business name on it. And here's my card. Okay? Least costly form of ownership to begin, no legal documents to file. You just open up a business, get a license for 50 bucks, start your deal. Profit incentive, you keep all the money. Okay? You have total authority, making authority. You are the boss. No special legal restrictions, and it's the least regulated form of business. Get your $50 license, and you're in. In many states, you don't even have to get a license. Okay? In Alaska, there's some specifics here, but it's real easy up here to do that. And easy to discontinue your business. How do you stop a sole proprietorship?
Don't renew your license.
Well, I've never renewed my license for you. You get one, I get the bank account, that's all I'm concerned about, right? Okay? I'm sure I'm going to be turned in now. There's some political foe out here. Get the guy in the black jacket, I understand. So it's easy to discontinue. You have a sole proprietorship. How do you stop it? You just stop it. You know? How's your business? What business? Apparently it's over. Okay? Disadvantages. You know, you get that, what business? You talking to me? Kind of deal. All right, you have unlimited personal liability. So business and personal life are one. Whatever your business happens to be, somebody stumbles, somebody does something, a slip and fall, I don't know. But you are personally liable to your house and your car, and depending on what state you're in, whether they can get at your savings, your retirement. Interesting sidebar. We're talking about lawsuits. Oh, the infamous OJ. Why did OJ move to Florida? To what?
They can't take your house.
And they can't take your football retirement in Florida. Okay? So he moved before any verdict came down and became a resident of Florida for legal reasons only. Couldn't take his house, couldn't take his retirement. Okay? California, they would have, they would have stripped him out of almost everything and he should have been. But that's another political decision. Okay? Business and personal life are one. There's your liability issue. Limited skills and capabilities. It's just you. Do you have everything that you need to be this person? Maybe. If you are, you're a Superman entrepreneur or superwoman. Okay? But most people start out as an entrepreneur, and then once you reach a certain level, you realize and have to embrace your assets and your lack of skills, your skills and your lack of skills. And the smart entrepreneur is the earliest one to realize those and go, I need help in this area, and you go hire that help. You go embrace. You do the Andrew Carnegie mentality. Anybody read history of Andrew Carnegie? You know, the steel magnate back in the day? Probably a high school, junior high education. He wasn't a smart man, as he even said, I'm not a smart man. But what I've done, as one of the stories was, they were doing antitrust hearings in Washington, D.C. So he's sitting there, and the Congress people are grilling him on, Mr. Carnegie, you are a stupid man. You have no education. You don't have this. You don't have that. Why should we blah, blah, blah? And Andrew Carnegie goes, I might not be the smartest man in the world, and I'm not. But I have a telephone that sits on my desk that has 100 buttons on it. And if anyone was to ask me any question in the world that I couldn't answer, I can push any button on that phone, and within 5 minutes, I will have a world quality expert in my office answering that question. Sup, Congress? Okay? So that was the deal of when do we have limited skill sets, and if it's just you, how long can you last out there doing everything to everybody all the time? You get the feelings of isolation. It's just you, sole proprietor, limited access to capital. Primarily, pretty much it's just your pocket, isn't it? It's what's in your wallet. That, how deep are your pockets? And lack of continuity. You die, the business dies. Okay? So those are the disadvantages of a sole proprietorship. A partnership. A partnership is an association of two or more people who co-own a business for the purpose of making a profit. And they potentially go by this UPA thing in here. All right. We kind of have an understanding of partnerships. People getting together to share, whether it's Mark Mornell doing that or Al partnering with, you know, his booze company down there that everybody knows about. By the way, it is a really tasty, smooth swill. So if you get a chance to sample that stuff out here, do it 4, 5, or 6 times after this thing, and then go up to Al with a big drool coming out. Al, that's really good stuff. So it's really good stuff. And if you have a partnership, you better have a partnership agreement. And it's a written agreement between all the players, okay? And this says, in that agreement, how are we getting together? Who's ponying up what on the table? Here's what the definition of division of powers are going to be. Who's in charge of what? And what's the most important part? If shit hits the fan, how are we going to go away without killing each other? Okay? When the partnership ceases. And haven't you all been part? You've seen partnerships? I think they're called marriages. I think. Okay? It's the same thing. You have an agreement up front to live forever together in life of happiness. But as you get down there and you find out that this is, there's more debt in this equation than there is equity. We could go down the business metaphors too, because apparently I'm a professional at this piece. But what can you do? Have a written agreement at the end on how you're... Tyrone, you're laughing for all the wrong reasons over there, okay? How you're going to exit this particular relationship and exit this particular business. Advantages. Easy to establish. Get a business license. Your partners. On the form there, it lists who are the players in your business. And if you're setting up, you know, you go out to the Secretary of State's website, and I was setting up a corporation for my puzzle business, and you have to have 3 people on the board, on your board of directors. Okay, well, I'm the president, and then I needed to pick somebody to be vice president in case there was a problem with the president, you know, and I figured, well, who better to be vice president than me? So, and then I figured, well, since I don't know anything about accounting, I'm not going to put that thing, so I'll be the secretary. So I'm president, vice president, and secretary of my corporation. So, okay, so we're just making this stuff up. And the Secretary of State is just a computer. They don't care. So I get stuff in the mail directed to different people in the corporation, and if it comes to the vice president, I go, he's not here, and I just, forward ordering, send it back to them, I guess. I don't know. It's easy to establish. You get a business license, okay? The same way you pay your $50 and you go. Complementary skills. You can get some help in the business area. Look at all the partnerships that we've gotten where Mark was saying he teamed, like this guy in Colorado, remember at the end? He said, this guy in Colorado calls me and he has this skill set and I've got this skill set and we're trying to do something together and make something happen. Did that just move? Okay. Division of profits. No restrictions on how you distribute the profits. But in a partnership, should we have a partnership agreement that says this is an 80-20, this is a 60-40, this is some degree of something, right, on who's going to do sweat equity, who's coming up with the cash. And as we all know, sometimes, what's the golden rule? He who has the gold makes the rules. So coming in, you've got a really smart idea, but I've got a big, as the BBM. What's the BBM? Big bag of money. Okay? So I might want a 60% share in this business, and we agree to that in our partnership agreement. Okay? On how we're going to, and when, potentially, we flow the cash out. Division of profits, we have a large pool of capital. We have larger pockets now. If we have a partner, do we have 2 more pockets we can dig around in? Maybe. Or bring in some other partners and have, a couple of pockets and a purse or 2, Sometimes women can carry large quantities of cash in there. Very small. Okay. Ability to attract limited partners, other generals or limited partners, and we'll get that term in a second. But if you have a partnership, can you bring in other partners? Sure. Instead of bringing in potentially another angel, could you bring in a partner who comes in with some cash for a certain cut of the money? And as partners, can you agree to anything? We started out with a 60-40. We bring in a new partner. Can we go now with 30, 30, and 30? Or we can divide it up any way you want if we agree to it. Okay? As long as the partners agree to it, there are no laws stating what you can't do. Okay? Ability to track minimal government regulations for a partnership. You just kind of do it. Flexible, lean, mean, and nimble business. Okay? With that partners, there's just the 2 of you. You can hustle, you can move, and we're fighting against the big elephant. And the term for small entrepreneur is when you're going up, as one who preaches entrepreneurship, there's always room between the elephant's toes. Okay? The elephants are stomping around, and where's that little entrepreneur? Getting in there. He's kind of the remora of the shark world, right? They kind of hang around the big sharks and wait till the sharks tear off some meat and do whatever the sharks do. And what do the remoras do? Hey, we chilling, man. We're just waiting for some droppings, but it's enough that as a small entrepreneur, I can make a quality living, right? Yeah. I don't need to have 1,000 employees. I can have me and a couple of workers with me, and I can do okay. So, the metaphor, the remora, or we can look at, the dingo ate my baby kind of deal. How a dingo comes up and they're trash eaters, they won't. Let's move on. Also down at the bottom, taxation, not subject to federal taxation. It's flow through to your personal tax account. Disadvantages. Unlimited liability of at least one partner, the general partner. You've heard about partnerships, 2 kinds. We're coming up there. A general partnership and a limited partnership. General partnership, in both partnerships, you have to have one general. Okay? There's one general in there, and that's a person in that partnership who has the liability. In a general partnership, if you had 3 people in the general partnership, all 3 of you would share commingled liability with your house and your fortune and everything else. So that's one of the hazards of a general partnership. All 3 have equal liability. In a limited partnership, you have one general and multiple limited partners. The general can have their assets taken if there's a slip and fall or who knows, a funky product that you've made. But the limited partners are only limited by what? The amount they have invested in the